Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll just wait a couple of minutes for all the participants to join the room, and then we will start, and I'll leave you in the hands of Maria Giuffrida. Thanks.
Hello, Maria. Good afternoon.
Oh, Albert, welcome. So we're just waiting like 1 minute, 2 minutes for people to join, and then we'll start.
Thank you.
We're already live, actually, so people can see our preparation. We have more than 30 people already connected, so welcome everyone. Okay, so while we wait for people to connect, let me just welcome all the people who are already in to this first webinar of the European Cloud Edge and IoT Continuum initiative, which is a new initiative funded by the European Commission, of course. And this is Maria Giuffrida speaking from Italy, Trust IT. And while we wait, maybe the people who are already connected, you can just write in the chat where you come from. Okay, so we break the ice a little bit and we understand where does the audience come from. Okay, so we have Germany, Italy, Greece. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Spain, Ireland, so all over Europe. That's great. This is, of course, a European initiative, UK, Berlin. That's great. That's very, very nice. So just 1 more minute. Good afternoon, Monique. Hi. Hello, everyone. Yeah, of course, this is a webinar, so the audience is muted, so we don't disturb. But then if you want to comment and add anything, you can do so by raising your hands. Okay, later on, let's just use the chat for now. I think, it's 5 minutes after 3, so we can start. And it's my pleasure to officially welcome you to this first webinar of the EUCloudEdgeIoT initiative, entitled Understanding Cloud Edge IoT Challenges and Opportunities. As I was mentioning before, my name is Maria Giuffrida. I'm a senior researcher at Trust IT. It's my pleasure to welcome you from Italy. We've seen people joining from different locations in Europe. And now we'll just introduce the agenda before starting with the introduction. So you should be able to see the agenda now. We will have an introduction from Golbu Puradolayan from IDC, which is a device coordinator of one of the projects that are behind the initiative that she will explain. Then we'll have another presentation by John Goll at IDC that will give us some market data and some interesting insights, explaining why such initiative exists and so why it's interesting to investigate the cloud edge and IoT convergence domain. Then we'll have a presentation, so 3 frontal presentation, and the third one will be by Marlene Eisentrager from VDI-IT, which is also part of the consortium, and she will explain how to get involved with the initiative. And then in the second part of the webinar, we will have a panel discussion with 5 excellent guests that you see listed here below my name, and I will properly introduce them later on when we go to that part. We will have also a Q&A chat for you to ask the questions that you want, and then concluding remarks. So you see, it's a very rich agenda. So I think it's really time to start. But before doing it, just let me give you some very quick instructions that you see recapped in the next slide. Basically, this webinar is recorded, of course. You will be able to access it after the event if you're registered. Please help us, run it smoothly by always keeping your mics and cameras off. And as I was saying before, you can contact us and get engaged with us by asking questions whenever you want. In the Q&A function, we'll pick the questions up as soon as they appear, and write comments if you don't have questions. And if you want to say something in voice, just raise your hand and we'll give you the floor when appropriate. Okay, so hope that's all clear. You're excited to start, and now I will leave the floor to Golbu for the introduction. And in the meantime, Golbu, you can take the ownership of the screen to share your slides. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you. Let me just share my screen and put it in presentation mode. Okay, I think it should be fine now. Thank you, Maria. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, this first webinar, as mentioned by Maria, the EU Cloud Edge IoT initiative. My name is Golbufur Abdullahian. I'm a consulting manager in IDC. IDC is the coordinator of the UNLOCK CEI project, which is one of the CSA projects funded under the EU Cloud Edge IoT. And I will explain more about this project in the following slides. Before going to the projects and talking about the project, let me start with a brief introduction of the paradigm shift that we are facing in terms of cloud edge IoT. Basically, when we talk about cloud edge IoT, we talk about the 3 layers of cloud edge and IoT for data generation, data storing, data processing, as we can see in the framework here. So cloud is a central storage of data with a central control. Edge brings the data processing and data analyzing into the edge of the device in the far edge case, but we have also other cases, and in real time. And IoT layer is where basically the data is generated by device and where eventually edge can be positioned as far edge. In the other words, we can say that by moving to the edge, we avoid, especially in case of the mission critical data, we avoid the transferring of this data in the cloud. We can support resilience, real-time operations, security, and privacy protection. According to IDC, it is expected that it's one of the surveys that IDC did. It's expected that by 2025, many companies will transfer and will shift their data processing and analyzing where is closer to where data is generated, which is edge. And as we can see here, there are several benefits which has been highlighted through this IDC survey that why companies will do that. And according to this, the main 2 benefits is one, low latency services, and the other, reduced communication burden. So basically, this paradigm shift is an emerging market. So this edge market is an emerging market in opposite to hyperscalers market, which is dominated by the let's say American companies. Here we can say that Europe has a big opportunity, to regain a significant role in the computing market, and also to further progress towards digital autonomy. And that's why also from the European Commission, a big amount of investment and effort has been dedicated to CloudEdgeIoT Continuum. Basically in the European Commission research program, this move towards the CloudEdgeIoT Continuum is reflected in the launch of a new cluster of the projects that we can see on the left, on the future European platforms for IoT and edge. And these projects that here we can see in pink, these 6 projects, they target the next generation of higher level operating systems for the smart IoT. With a strong focus, obviously, on the computing continuum, so from cloud to edge. Apart from these six projects, there are also 2 CSAs, or Coordinated Support Actions projects, which are funded under the Horizon Europe. And one of them is focused on the demand side, which is UNLOCK CEI, and the other, which is Open Continuum, is focused on the supply side. The aim of these projects is to provide support and coordination support to the projects, but not only to the projects, but also to the European Commission to accelerate the uptake of the CI technologies. And under this umbrella, under this objective, both projects join forces under a bigger umbrella of European Cloud Edge IoT Continuum in order to cover the whole continuum and from supply to demand. As I mentioned, these are the two projects. UNLOCK, which is focused on the demand side, it's coordinated by IDC. We have 5 other partners in the projects in our consortium: VDI, AGI, BlueSpecs, TrustIT, and Compla. We started the project in June, and it's gonna last for 30 months. On the other hand, Open Continuum project, which is coordinated by Martel, covers the supply side, and it started in September and will last for 24 months. Here, in the following slides, I'm going to do a more deep dive into UNLOCK CEI activities to explain about the goals and dimensions of the projects and what we are doing and what we are going to do in the upcoming months. So the main goal of the UNLOCK project is to accelerate the uptake and adoption of the cloud edge IoT technologies. And how we are going to do this, to accelerate this uptake, by focusing on the demand landscape, by understanding that what's the status of the demand market, what is going to be the status of the demand market, what are the drivers and barriers for the uptake of these technologies, and what are the opportunities out there that can be gained and that can be harvested by the technology providers. So under this big umbrella of objective, we have obviously some more specific objectives if we want to break it down. So our first objective is to analyze and assess the cloud edge IoT demand landscape, to understand that what are the priority use cases, to understand what is going to be the future of the market of the CI, and what are the main drivers and barriers for the uptake, as I mentioned. The second objective is based on the results of the demand landscape analysis to define some market scenarios in order to facilitate and accelerate the uptake of these technologies, and also define some pathways to reach these market scenarios. The third objective is to engage also industry significantly and build a cloud edge IoT industry constituency. So basically to create what we call adopters group and to get them engaged in the activities that we have within the project. And the fourth objective is to coordinate and interact with the supply side. This means with the Open Continuum and also with the projects that are covering the supply side, in order to make sure that we are establishing this link and in order to make sure that we have enough information in order to come up with some insights to fill the gap between demand and supply. And then obviously, like any other CSA, we have the objective of raising awareness and create impact within this topic. Based on these objectives, we have two main pillars of activities in UNLOCK project. The first pillar of activity that we see on the left side is related to the demand analysis and market scenarios definition. So basically to understand that what are the real functional needs in the market and to understand what's the gap versus what has been pushed by technology providers to the markets, because this is, let's say, that the main added value to provide this knowledge to the technology providers and also supply projects that these are the real needs of the market. Then perhaps they can use this information in order to adjust their offering into the market. So in order to do that, as I mentioned, we will do an assessment of the demand landscape. To do that, we are working on a survey that we will launch it with 700 European companies across the European landscape to understand and quantify some indicators in terms of the market, in terms of the uptake of these technologies currently and also in future, and also to identify that what are the leading use cases in main verticals for European companies. And then the second category of activities under this pillar is a definition of market scenarios. This will happen through identification, definition, and validation of service requirements, and then creation of a catalog which ranks the needs and service requirements. And then based on these identified service requirements, we're going to develop market scenarios and pathways. So this has been one pillar of UNLOCK activities. The second pillar of UNLOCK activities is focused on the creation of an ecosystem and also reinforcing this ecosystem to engage different industrial stakeholders across the value chain. So in order to do that, we have two main categories of activities. The first one is to build and activate a cloud edge IoT industry ecosystem. In order to do that, we will organize 5 industry action groups. In each action group, there will be at least 10 companies which will get engaged and they will collaborate together. We will organize a specific industry events and also adopters group that Marlene will talk about it more in her talk, in order to make sure that we are engaging the adopters and the end users to understand exactly the needs and also to connect them with the technology providers. And then the second category of activities under this pillar is to establish and create a bilateral dialogue with the technology providers in cloud edge IoT. And we will do this through providing a readiness assessment tool to assess the readiness of the technology adopters for cloud edge IoT, to involve the technology suppliers in the events in order to establish this dialogue also with the end users that are going to use their technologies, and to perform technology adoption days. Apart from these two pillars, obviously, we will always work transversally to create a vibrant community through organizing events, through creating best examples of the use cases, through making webinars like this, etc., etc. In a nutshell, if I want to summarize the expected outcomes of UNLOCK project, we can say that we have 6 main outcomes. The first one is the Cloud Edge IoT demand landscape report and dashboard, which is going to be an interactive virtual tool which shows the situation of the market based on the KPIs that we are going to quantify during the landscape analysis. We will have a validated market scenarios and pathways. We will generate validated Cloud Edge IoT service requirements. We will build and create an active ecosystem of value chain adopters. We will organize a pilot factory around the pilot actions of Cloud Edge IoT, and eventually we will generate recommendations for attractive market scenarios and high potential investment larger scale pilots. Just to wrap up in 2 phrases, I think the main mission of UNLOCK is to fill the gap between the demand and supply, and to support the supply projects and technology providers to get closer to market to commercialize their CI solutions. Now that was all about the introduction that I wanted to give, and now I would like to leave the floor to my colleague John Gold from IDC.
Okay, thank you, Golbu. Let me just share my screen. Let's see. All right, I hope you can see that. Okay, so thank you, Golbu, for the introduction. I've been asked to share some of our research and our insights on why it's important to investigate the Cloud Edge IoT domain. I'm a research director at IDC. I oversee our European IoT practice, and we're working closely with colleagues across our edge and cloud practices as well. But today I have just a few minutes to share a few high-level insights. So first of all, why should we be investigating Cloud Edge IoT? To start with, it's become a very widely adopted part of the technology plans for organizations across Europe. So on the left, in a survey already over a year ago, 77% of organizations said that they were planning to invest in IoT. About half of them had already deployed projects in IoT. So there's quite widespread adoption of IoT. The market is convinced of the need for these solutions, and it's a matter of then deploying them and expanding them and then moving on to additional projects. So the market is already moving quite in quite a widespread adoption toward IoT. Very similar with cloud, actually higher adoption of cloud. The cloud trend has been ongoing for many years now. So it's also a well understood market and technology. It continues evolving quickly, but you can see there's very high adoption. 78% of organizations said they are already using cloud. And we see further rapid development in that space and growth. In terms of market size, we estimate that the spending on IoT this year will be 176 billion euros. Cloud is not on this slide, but the spending there will be nearing 100 billion euros. And you can see Edge over there on the right. It's already 36 billion euros, even though it's more of a newer development than cloud and IoT. So it's really important to note that this is a very large market, and and these technologies are becoming central parts of the technology plans for organizations across the continent. Furthermore, it's not just about sort of where we are now, it's also about where we're going. Many of the use cases that organizations are moving toward and embracing for the coming decade leverage IoT quite extensively. They require quite a lot of compute in the cloud, in data centers, but also a lot of these use cases require quite a lot of compute right at the edge. For example, the autonomous vehicles that need onboard compute power to process the sensor data in real time. Factory automation, which generates huge amounts of data and needs very quick real-time response and analysis. You can't send all of that data across to a central cloud and then bring the decisions back to shut down the robot or change direction when you're dealing with large amounts of latency across the network. That's not feasible. So we need compute power at the edge for a lot of these use cases, and yet it's not cloud or edge. We see that these use cases are bridging cloud and edge. And so we essentially we see that these three technologies are blended together. They are integrated together and already widely used, but also critical enablers for the use cases that will drive the economy and our infrastructure forward for the coming many years. And on that note, infrastructure. So the prior slides were really kind of looking at this more from the side of the market spending and the importance as a market for technology players. But it's important to note that the cloud edge IoT is really critical for Europe's future in many different ways. I've noted energy infrastructure on the left. This is rather a hot topic this year, as you know, and IoT, edge, and cloud are really, these use cases are playing a key part in continuing to modernize this infrastructure, optimize it, build resiliency, and prepare us for, and also transition the energy infrastructure toward newer technologies. Part of that energy security relates to national security as well, and there are also many other ways that these technologies are crucial for our national security in Europe. It's also critical for things like healthcare and really all across the economy, across all industries. IoT, cloud, and edge are really being adopted everywhere and making a significant impact on efficiency and resiliency in operations. Finally, there's sustainability goals. These technologies are playing an important part in enabling us to achieve those sustainability goals as well. So cloud edge IoT, it's really critical for us in many ways. That said, it is still very early days. This slide is showing you the results from a recent survey we conducted. This is referring to IoT projects, in what stage of development the projects were at the organizations we surveyed. And you can see that the majority of organizations said that most of their projects are still in very early stages. So although there's quite a lot of spending on these technologies, quite widespread adoption already, this chart shows you that we're still in very early days with deployment of these technologies. I have a similar result here referring to Edge, where 48% of Edge adopters are in the pilot phase. And we expect adoption itself to rise rapidly as well with Edge. So again, early days, there's quite a lot of growth expected, and the importance of these technologies to the organizations across Europe is increasing over time. Okay, so not sure how I'm doing on time. I'll keep it moving. I've been talking quite a bit about the sort of the demand side of cloud edge IoT. And so now I'd like to talk for a minute about the supply side. The chart here is showing you a glance at the European IoT market. And the point is that IoT incorporates many different technologies to assemble a single solution, an end-to-end solution. And so it creates opportunities for many different technology companies, many different areas. And most of these areas are very competitive and fragmented at the moment. This is not a mature, consolidating market. This is a nascent, rapidly growing and evolving market. There's opportunity for companies to capture market share, to shape the industry, and to make a big impact still in this market. I could have shown you similar charts for cloud and edge as well. These markets they include many different technologies. Even cloud, which we often think of as being very centralized around three main players, hyperscale players. Even there's many other players involved in providing technology and services that are associated with those clouds. So it's a fragmented market. There's many opportunities. There are many strong European players in different parts of these markets. And there's no dominant players in most of these segments. Obviously, that hyperscale trio is the exception, but in most places, there's a lot of opportunity still. And so now's the time for these players to shape that market. And it's also the time where policies can influence how the market takes shape. And so to that point, it's worth noting that Europe is a strong leader in many technology fields, but it lags in others. A classic example is in telecom network technology, where European policies have really been effective, enabling European players to establish a very strong position in that global market. In other areas like semiconductor chip production, Europe has a much smaller share. And so in both these examples, policies make a difference. Policies have played a key role in enabling European telecom network vendors. And now policies such as the European Chip Act are aimed at addressing the low level of semiconductor production in Europe and aiming to boost that market. So policies can make a difference. And so back to the question, why investigate these technologies? Well, we need to understand the trends and opportunities so that the right policies can follow. And so my final slide here is just the key takeaways, which I think I've already hammered home very, very clearly. It's a big market. It's critical for Europe's future. Competitive environment is wide open, and Europe can be a leader on the next platform with the right research and policies. So I hope that was of use. I will conclude here, and I will turn things over to Marlene Eisenpfleger.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you can hear and see me. And I also try to share my screen now and override use.
Yes.
So please give me a short feedback. Maybe John, can you see it?
Yes, Marlene.
Perfect, thank you. So short introduction for myself, and then I will get into the content. Marlene Eisenträger, I'm working at VDI VDIT. We are a project agency in Germany, as my name might give away. And myself and also my colleague Inessa Seifert, we are working in the project and are responsible for the participation formats, especially for stakeholders in UNLOCK CEI. And so, my talk now today is more like an invitation for you to join, to participate in our formats. And Inessa is unfortunately sick, so she can't participate today. But nevertheless, if you are joining, you will get to know her also definitely in the future. So without further ado, let's take a look at our approach. You had a good overview, I think, about the objectives of UNLOCK CEI in the talks before, thanks to Golbu and John. So I won't get too much into that. But of course, being the one to have the demand side of the CEI, we want to unlock exactly what are the business drivers. We want to get an insight on the innovation and business opportunities in supply chains and value chains. And to get that, we need that input directly from the industry, from people and stakeholders all around them. We want to network them, of course, to build up that ecosystem while getting that information. And our approach for that are these value chain adopter groups. And we are building up 5 of those groups in the key sectors: manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, energy and utilities, and transportation, which includes mobility and logistics. We also, next to potential industry interessants, we also address industrial associations, which are representing, of course, the interests of some business groups, and have another look on technology drivers as one company can have. So you all are warmly invited to join. And in the end, we will have a registration format, if you like. So yeah, you can look forward to that. But first, let's take a look on the workshops which we have planned, the so-called workshop waves, as we are doing 2 waves of 5 workshops, which are sector specific. So for each sector, there will be 1 workshop in wave 1 and 1 in wave 2. And afterwards, there will be a 3rd event, which will be a final cross-domain panel. All of these workshops will take about 3 to 4 hours, and give you an input, but also give us input from your side. So for networking, but also for getting to work on the topic of CEI. So what is the first workshop about? It will be a virtual event, so that you won't have too much traveling expenses, and it will be about identifying the business drivers and identifying the clear revenue streams. Where do they flow? Who gets what out of these use cases we are discussing? And where are potential vendor lock-ins? What are gaps and business opportunities in the supply chain? So that will be the topic of the first workshop wave. And we are using their Blue Ocean strategy methodology, especially strategy canvas or buyer experience cycle. So you are warmly invited, as I already said. And the second workshop wave, after, I think it will be around maybe February, March in 2023. So not too much in the future. So but after that, there will be the second wave, which will be a hybrid event. So you can join virtually, but we are also inviting you to come together in presence, to have a real connection, to also get to know each other closely. And it will be based on the market scenarios Golbu talked about, which will then be used to refine the service requirements, to prioritize and validate service requirements and ideas about how CEI technologies can be used, also regarding specific topics such as security, sustainability, and sovereignty. So to get more insights would be a point for you, but also for us as the goal of the second workshop, and also to see what are new players in the ecosystem to get to know each other, and what are novel business opportunities and models in that area. Last but not least, the third point will be the cross-domain panel. So which also will take 3 to 4 hours and will be, of course, now in presence, because we think that in the end, in the last workshop, it will be very important to really get down to work together and get to know each other. And it will be for chosen participants from all the working groups before the value chain adopter groups. So we will discuss about pathways for the development of the market structure with key decision points. We will take a look on the government actions which are needed and on framework conditions, so that all that we planned before in the workshops can get can be built up and also be included in so-called or recommendations for so-called large-scale pilots that are projects planned by the European Commission to be a call for in 2023 or 2024. So that is the outlook for our working together, and I wanted to close my short talk with what you get out of joining the value chain adopter groups. So of course, contribute to those recommendations for the large scale pilot. And with that, you can, you have a clearer view on them and also be able maybe to participate in them when you answer on that call. So, and also actively shape, of course, the European SEI ecosystem with regards to many points. We are actually taking a close look on energy efficiency, reduction of CO2 emissions, resilient supply chains, and data privacy in the workshop waves. And which is one of the major points, at least I feel like, as an economic person, to estimate the cost-benefit ratio for concrete use cases, which is a decision point for many people in the industry. And last but not least, to foster the green and digital twin transition in the European SEI ecosystem. So if you're interested, feel free to register using the QR code here. You will get to an internet registration format. I can look if I can share that screen also. So you should now see that.
Yes, we see.
Perfect. So you will get to that format here, which also gives a short overview where you can just give us your information and also see which are the industrial sectors you are interested in. And you can also see if you're more than one, just click them in. And then we will have your contact information. And if you have any questions, you can also contact here my colleague directly. So thank you for your attention, and I'm looking very much forward to seeing you all in the value chain adopter groups. And if it was too quick for you, no worries. In the end, there will also be a short QR code again, so that you can think while the other people are now giving all the information about SEI, I think. Maria, what are we looking now?
Thank you, Marlene. I also put the link to the registration form in the chats for whoever didn't have the chance to scan the QR code. So thank you very much for all the 3 speakers that have presented so far, more or less the overall initiative and some of the specific objectives of one of the projects, UNLOCK CEI. Now it's time to basically discuss the topic, and we have decided to invite excellent speakers that have, different perspectives and background, hopefully complementary to to help us understand better CI, what are the challenges and the opportunities. And also, if you want to intervene, let's say in the discussion and add your comment or question, just do so in the chat. So I will just briefly introduce our guests strictly in alphabetical order. So we have here with us Kai Bierdzinski, Senior Project Manager at Infineon and EPOS. Infineon is a leader company in chip and semiconductor sector, and EPOS is the European technology platform on smart systems integration. So welcome, Kai. You can switch on maybe your camera so people see you. Then we have Brendan Rowan, a representative of UNLOCK CEI, is a managing consultant for tech policy and skills at BlueSpecs. And BlueSpecs is an innovative consulting company specialized in guiding the strategic positioning and technology adoption of companies with a focus on digital technologies. Hi, Brendan. Then we have Natalie Samovic, chair of the working group on energy of IoT, which is the Alliance for Internet of Things Innovation, an association that aims to lead, promote, and bridge the collaboration between IoT, edge computing, and other technologies. So welcome, Natalie. It's a pleasure to have you here. Then we have Albert Subers, director at Martel, who is also coordinator of Open Continuum, the other supply side CSA of this umbrella initiative that Golbo was mentioning. Martel is a digital innovation agency specialized in research and development in different domains, and also specialized in communication, marketing, and media. So welcome, Albert, as well. Thanks for being here. And last but not least, we have Rainer Streta, SVP Cloud Services and Global Platform Hosting at Ionos, who is a leading provider of cloud infrastructure, services, and hosting. So thanks again for being here, and let's start with the discussion. Let me just remind how this discussion will be structured. We'll have 3 rounds of questions to our guests that will try to provide, very precise and effective answers to the points raised. So as the title of the panel is Challenges and Opportunities, let's start with the first round on the challenges. And let's see, okay, we have seen in the presentation that this topic is, very attractive, but of course, nowadays we're not there yet. There are some challenges that we would like to understand from a business, technological, and also system integration perspective. So let's start with Brendan. Brendan, what are, in your experience, the challenges that you see in the market nowadays before arriving to the CEI convergence?
Well, I think one of the things to highlight is that actually we're dealing with the very early days of this convergence piece there. And that's affecting a lot of the different areas. Over the past few years, we've kind of seen the wholesale all-in approach to moving whole organizations onto cloud. And that's been huge, huge investment by IT teams over the last 6, 7, 8 years, not just in terms of cost, but also in terms of the resources and the whole changing workflows, etc., that have to happen in that way. So I think, as we move into the next 5 years, when we're looking at the cloud edge IoT, there'll be challenges about overcoming the kind of historic investment that's going to create a barrier within organizations, because they'll turn and say, well, we just spent how many tens of millions in doing that migration. Now, there is, of course, a trend of large organizations who are pulling back away from large cloud, from diversifying the number of cloud providers they have, mainly around security and having a certain level of sovereignty around that. So there's an opportunity there at that moment. Now, I think, as John pointed out, this move towards the edge and towards the applications will probably be driven a bit more by the use cases. And this is something all of us who've worked in the IoT for a while have been very familiar with. And those of us in the know understand the huge value that these federated systems and these, new approaches to technologies will have. And, for some examples there was, the autonomous car and autonomous farming, et cetera, but those who are in large organizations are much more focused on the here and now and the challenges that they have. And I think that's one of the other problems we're going to have, is that we get stuck in a similar environment with IoT, where there's these really, really exciting use cases by IoT dragging it forward. But the reality is people are trying to implement them are actually looking at the boring use cases, if you could forgive my, the boring use cases, still looking at use cases that we talked about within the research community 8 years ago, still haven't been implemented at large scale within large organizations. I think as well, the fact that we're looking at huge convergence along a big diversity of technologies will also create challenges within organizations with their skills and the capacity to adopt it. And that's something that we need to take hand in hand as we develop these technologies. We need to make sure that they're super easy to use, that the tools that are developed are very easy to get a hold of, because at the moment it is so easy to get onto AWS and set up your own system there. And I think that's something we need to be careful of as well. The competition, John mentioned 30 billion being invested next year. That sounds like a huge amount of money in edge, but cloud is 600 billion in 2030, 2023, and also Google made a loss of 800 million last quarter in cloud. So they're willing to make this loss because they see a future profit in that way, and we'll be facing similar scenarios as we do that there. And then on the last point there, just around the money. So, we don't know yet the business models for these different systems. We don't know how that pie is going to be divided up between the different components and the different contributors in that way. That's something that the projects within the EUCloudEdgeIoT Continuum are addressing, but it's also a question that remains exactly how will this work, and it's something that we need to be addressing now so that in 5 years' time the commercial offering is clear and it's a very simple structure and it's a win-win-win for everyone. And I think that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks. Thanks, Brenda. That's very clear. I totally agree with you with the importance of having interesting use cases to start with and understanding the business models. But we are also here in a technological domain. So I would like to ask Natalie as well from the IoT perspective, what type of technological challenges do you see in addition maybe or to what Brendan has mentioned?
Yes, of course, use cases is a very comprehensive approach, right, Brendan? We know, but I would like to rely on the work that AUTI produced within the past couple years, actually 2 years, from working group 1 related on the innovation and the policy expected policy needs. But reflecting on what Brendan mentioned, complexity is the word that comes as the challenge, and it just came up because in the next statement I'll just list a number of those technologies that need to converge within the continuum. And I think this is overarching challenge in addition to the adaptation and the associated costs to such adaptation that Brendan mentioned. So the within the AUTI paradigm, Internet of Things and industrial Internet of Things, coupled with edge computing, are at the core of digitalization. And so these are the links to the continuum that we are considering. And the key industrial sector is seeing great potential for these technologies as technologies, right? And the IoT currently is expanding beyond, I would say, just static monitoring, where we started, and the use cases for static monitoring, to activate device automation, real-time processing of data usage, and the edge processing linked to AI, mesh connectivity, and end-to-end security. And here we go. This is even before we're going into the convergence of OT, IoT, and the security topics. These are the sources of complexity that I would like to bring up. And this is not uniform across the industries, right? So the intelligent IoT devices accelerate the conversion of IT and OT, and at the same time, advance digital transformation of areas within the energy, agri-food, automotive, mobility, transport, manufacturing, smart cities, and now the smart communities. And here we have 2 parallel challenges, SDGs and decarbonization. And these challenges, I would not say they are uniform for the computing continuum because of the different levels of or different states of legacy infrastructures. And later on, I will speak a little bit more related to energy. That's one. Also, ability to transform company, industry, et cetera, not only ability, but readiness to transform, and the imperative for decarbonization or sensitivity to decarbonization. If I have one more minute, I would like to just very quickly mention 3 more areas. Thank you. So 4 main topics. This was just the first one, a little flavor of the first one. And the second one is new IoT and edge capabilities drive overall decentralization of overall ICT architectures and topologies, and at the same time hold the key to potential decarbonization of not only application, but also the sectors, right? So this shift into the architectures and topologies is a big challenge because you need to deploy quite a bit of resources to accomplish this. Third one is edge computing already has triggered the whole paradigm shift in cloud computing, right? So that's even without the continuum. And there's a clear need to orchestrate the resources to optimize along the way, right? EUCloudEdgeIoT currently is working on the paper in collaboration with other organizations on how to connect edge to the cloud, basically, which includes all of the components of the continuum. But this relationship edge to the cloud is something that we're focusing on. We're also seeing calls for new operating systems at the edge for decentralized IoT, industrial IoT architectures and real-time processing. So this is on the cross borders between the technology and the platforms. And the last one I would like to mention is the need for scale-up environments. So we need Europe-wide markets, because if we want to scale up, then this harmonization should be across member states. So a single market for IoT, industrial IoT, edge computing is required. And I won't even go into the AI, digital twins, and DLT, which are all enabled by IoT, which present challenges. Each of those technologies have their own challenges.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalie, for this overview. And I would also like to hear Kai's opinion on this as a provider and system integrator. What do you think are the main challenges we're talking about here?
Yeah, there are many challenges for system integration. I don't have the time to point them out, all of them. Hence, I just want to focus on some of them. The first one would be the legacy infrastructure, especially in our more developed countries, like we have it in Europe, but also in North America. And here we have the big problem that parts of the infrastructure or parts of systems are written in the software of these infrastructure are written in programming language, which you could say are these days ancient. Example for here are in COBOL, which was a programming language developed in the 1950s. And many banking systems are, the core of these systems are written in this programming language. And now you have the problem, there's no longer developers there, but these parts of the system include expert knowledge of people who also no longer are in this organization. So you have the experts who are no longer in the organization, but you have also the developer no longer in the organization who could modernize this code and maintain the code. Hence, you have the problem when you want to then move away from this code so that you can create this cloud edge IoT infrastructure in the first place and integrate these components, then things start to break. Then the second point would be the performance. yes, we have the IoT and we want to have as much data as possible and gathering and from all parts of the organization, from all parts of the factory, and so on and so on. But the bandwidth is these days not enough. Also when we really, because even now most sensors send raw data, for example. And when we would take all this raw data, for example, from our factories, our networks would break down. Hence the rise of edge computing, but the edge computing is still in the early stages. And we are still need much more computation power near the sensors to reduce the amount of sensors and extract important information so that we can then send these important parts through the network to the cloud, where we can then extract insights by combining the different information. And this also then leads me to my third point, is the data integration in the first place. Which data do we gather? Which data is relevant? And which data is a real correlation, which is also a causation? Because these days, yes, we still only look at data at one moment, but when one point in the time. But often we notice now that when we look then data over time, the data points, the features start to move away from each other, and the correlation which was there at the one moment is then disappearing, and this then also leads to problems of our IoT system implementations.
Thanks, Kai. Very structured and clear answer. If I may give feedback. So we have, done an overview of different type of challenges, but we hopefully will work towards, overcoming these challenges, and that's the main, objective why this EUCloudEdgeIoT initiative is born. And so this leads me to the second topic and the second round of this panel, which is on the opportunities that we can work on and we can leverage on to at least reduce in this initial phase some of these barriers. So talking about opportunities, there are many and of different kinds, and I would like to hear first the opinion and overview of Albert from Martel about what opportunities do you see to overcome these challenges with the project that you're working, and more in general with your experience.
Thank you, Maria. So I think the previous speakers already alluded to the real issues that we see, and how to solve them is not easy. We try a lot of things and we keep it simple so we can understand what's happening. And if you go deeper into what is needed, yes, you need to treat the data very close to the source for privacy reasons, for safety reasons, for network reasons. So there's many different reasons why you want to do this. But you can't deploy compute power to every sensor. So you need to have that in a distributed model. And here's where edge plays an important role. So you can have swarm to edge to cloud, or whatever fine grid you want to create on compute power. And Golby already mentioned the Fluid project is distributed computing over many different sources in the edge, and how to publish and subscribe to do this to reduce the environmental impact. But the most important thing, and the challenge here, is that we should not only think about I would say the latency and the communication aspect. It's much more what we have to look into is the design aspects of what we need to do. The architects working on this need to find a way to focus on the legal aspects and the design aspects of software running in this distributed environment, because security is an important part of doing this. But let's not forget, we deploy this in a way to provide safety, so we have to rely on it. A recent example on edge technology deployed in many countries. I'm from the Netherlands, and our Ministry of Justice just recognized we've put up a lot of surveillance cameras in the edge, running in the edge technology, coming from China, and all of a sudden we don't trust them anymore because we don't know what the embedded software is really acting, how that's really acting. So to overcome the challenge and build trust, you need also have an attention and look at the legal aspects and the design aspect of software running on this. So the embedded software in the technologies is an important element. And here is where parties should find, and here UNLOCK CEI and Open Continuum should build a bridge to empower people that are interested in working on this, is to define and design open source, open standards that need to collaborate and bring demand and delivery together. Just as an example, and this is not far-fetched because we're already doing it, but urban air logistics. Today, it's all bound to regulations and rules, but with the upcoming definition of airspace management systems, we will have drones from many different vendors, many different areas, many different providers. They need to communicate amongst each other. And that communication and all the compute power they need to have to understand what's happening in their airspace. You can't, and we can't allow them to go rogue. A friend of mine is working for the Air Force here, and he says, when a drone goes rogue, the only thing the Air Force can do is send out a missile of 10,000 euros. But that's what you don't want. You want to make sure you can trust and rely on this distributed computing model that's deployed. And between drones and what we do today in the industry, it seems like there is a whole different, but it's the same. We need to take care of the environment, reduce costs for CPU power and energy, distributed computing models, and therefore this whole legal and design aspect is something we should focus on. And I would call that open source. Some others would call it open standards, but okay, it's the way we join forces to create this.
Thanks, Albert. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And open source is also a way to somehow make also different type of sectors cooperate between each other. Although, as Natalie was mentioning before, there are differences in each sector that need to be taken into account. And so this gives me the opportunity to ask back to Natalie, what type of opportunities specifically in the energy industry, which you work on very closely and was also at the center of President von der Leyen speech last week, what opportunities do you see for CI in energy specifically in the future?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the IoT and edge computing are in principle directly involved in the transformation towards decarbonization on many levels. I think we're all aware of the recent events and happening. And here, one of the challenge, but as well as the opportunity, is we are in need of the very short-term and urgent solutions. Yet at the same time, we have to continue the pace of innovation and maybe even accelerating things, and maybe looking at and readjusting our long-term goals, considering additional prioritization. So I would say this is a challenge and an opportunity for the innovation community. I would say also embedded AI and neuromorphic computing will lead to new design intelligence of both physical and functional integration into devices and smart systems. And here also for the new concepts like requirements for AI interference, distributed edge, linked to the mobile 5G and mesh network functionality, in which use case, as Brandon was mentioning, for the demand side flexibility for the energy sector. And I think we all can relate to that. So it's for the flexibility of demand, it's for the energy communities, and for the self-consumption models. I would say this is short and medium goal opportunity where the technology can step up. At the same time, it also opens the accelerated floodgate for the for these new technologies and the adaptations, and especially on what Albert was talking about, advances in the chips and the edge computing. Privacy and confidentiality is paramount in this. And so the way we integrate into the continuum these topics is very important. There is not a single project on energy communities where privacy by design and confidentiality and trust are at the core from the day one of discussions, and the need for new collaborative and so-called privacy preserving AI techniques. AI will be needed for this because we are talking about the aggregated resources on the regional level, large spread out territories. So we definitely will resort to that. Well, I'll stop with this, but I would like to put the two angles on the forefront, one related to the energy communities and flexibility of demand that would hold the promise of actually managing the system more efficiently. We do know we need construction of new grids and the upgrades, but this is flexibility of demand solutions can really lower that cost, as we've heard within the past 2 years, also outcomes of the project, and that's where the continuum really would make a difference.
Thanks, Natalie. You mentioned again the use cases in your answer. So I think it's fair now to ask two providers we have in our panel. So Rainer and Kai, ask you the same questions more or less. Of course, you reply based on your own perspective. And the question is, what type of opportunities and use cases you see in the industries where you work on? And what is your approach to the use cases that you are implementing right now? So if you can give us some very practical examples and ideas to let us touch a little bit what's going on. I would like to ask Rainer to answer first, and then Kai.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. So, I mean, first of all, everything which Natalie said, I can completely echo this, and you probably can even translate it to other verticals as well. I mean, health, finance, there are similar requests, especially when it comes to privacy. I mean, GDPR is something which is kind of the basis at the end of the day, and there's much more that these customer segments request. So it's up to us to provide the appropriate infrastructure, and that's exactly what we're achieving here. European-based infrastructure that integrates not only the fundamental infrastructure as a service, but as well the platform that we need to operate this the use case in a very secure way, in a very scaling way, and very easy. I mean, Brandon just said Amazon is so easy to use. I'm not sure if I would probably, as a German European provider, agree on this one. I think it takes some time really to get used to it, and there is much space for improvement. But more important than the usability is as well the transparency they have, and in particular the security and data compliance. Now, we not only operate data centers, we are a mobile provider as well. And as mentioned at the beginning, edge data centers step by step get into the market, but one of the main drivers is for sure mobile edges. We built the mobile network, the 5G and next generation 6G on standard cloud equipment. This is nothing else than what we have in the data center as well, just on a smaller scale, including all the functionality of standard Kubernetes clouds and AI GPU clusters that we have on edge as well, allowing to operate at least interference on the edge, but as well as some specific use cases that are that require low latency. They are not so many use cases as of today. I think they are coming together with the opportunities to execute them. Next to all this autonomous driving, I do see a significant lift in digital twins. And I'm not talking just about a single factory digital twin, which is all massive and complex. I mean, Natalie was talking about the complexity. And yes, this is really complexity that we're facing here. But we're talking about factories that have different sites, many different sites, and they run digital twin across the different sites with predictive latency. And there are a lot of things which we do have already in place, but there's, again, a lot of innovation that is still required. And we do operate a few funding projects at the moment that try to fill the gaps together with the research institutes. Just as an example, there are companies, when we touch the topic security again, there are companies that do not want that their traffic is leaving the Schengen area. So all packages should stay in the Schengen room. But this is today quite challenging, other than you build fiber connections directly between the different sites. But we do want to use a very efficient way. So use the internet and build an overlay network where the application itself can define that it requires a connection between the public cloud, the edge, far edge, and even the devices. Which is where we can guarantee not only latency and latency variation, but as well that the package is not leaving the Schengen room. So there are some white spots that we still need to tackle. Here, some of them are obvious, others are probably very specific. But what we like to do, and that's the big opportunity, is that we can build the backbone, what we call the DNS of the internet for all the data rooms and data space as well, which is actually a topic that is emerging as well. When we see the IoT and we see IoT stacks that are yet not on the level that we want to have them. There is some investment required to have the right IoT stacks, particular open source IoT stacks in Europe. But the next thing we definitely need that is IoT stacks that we have are really well connected to build data spaces, because at the end of the day, yes, companies tend to operate and process data locally, and that's already a significant advantage. Digital twin of a factory is as such already a significant advantage because you can simulate process, you can optimize significantly, and that's a significant benefit, not only for the Green Deal, but you want to do it across different sites. So in very complex, more complex scenarios, even globally, finally, and that requires significant improvement in the field of data spaces. And that's what we're definitely working on as well, to really make sure that this gets an established standard across the different verticals throughout the industry, to make sure that we can leverage the data that we're collecting with this hopefully open IoT stacks that we have in Europe that are super competitive with what we have seen from the hyperscalers. And actually, I'm including the Asian hyperscalers as well. They have tremendous technologies in place where we definitely can compete. We're very strong. I mean, we do have the engineers in Europe for sure, but we have to keep not only the knowledge in Europe, but as well the people that help us to bring this to the market. Yeah. So in a nutshell, the use cases that we operate at the moment, they're really moving forward. We have tackled in certain projects all different sectors. It's a health sector, I just mentioned, finance sector, maritime sector, just connecting the offshore wind parks with IoT, where there's a lot of use cases that absolutely make sense. Even use cases like building seagrass plants in the North Sea to bind over proportional CO2. That's a beautiful use case that works pretty well, but you need to find the sweet spots. And there's a lot of sensor data required and combined to actually locate this. So they're super cool use cases that we all kind of operate on a platform. But again, to achieve this, the platform has to get much better than what we have today. And therefore, we need this link between the research industry, the industry, the providers, just make sure that we collaboratively can push to the next level.
Thanks, Rainer. You're very right, and collaboration is one of the points we're going to touch in a moment. But first, I want to leave the floor to Kai as well, and remind the audience, if you have any questions or comments or curiosity about what we're discussing about, feel free to either write or raise your hand, and we'll consider your input. So Kai, what's your take on the use cases instead? Oh, we don't hear you in this moment.
Do you hear me now?
No, yes.
Naturally, the IoT, edge, and cloud are the basis for many use cases. One of the biggest is perhaps the automation aspect. To give you an example, we using our sensors in our office buildings to make combined with edge computing and cloud and AI to have occupancy monitoring, which is privacy preserving, because we're using radar sensors, for example, instead of cameras or something similar. And with these sensors, we can then see whether a meeting room is used or not. And then the building control system can look into whether the heating system, the air conditioner or windows are closed and the heating system and air conditioner are turned off. And this is because this is not too underestimating problem where people forget to turn off these things, to close windows, and this naturally leads to energy losses and these kind of problems. But not all. This is not the only one. Naturally, also in our factories, then using robots and to not just replace workers, but much more to have this collaborated working between a robot and a human, and with that improving the health of the human by leaving the hard work with the strain puts a big strain on the body into the robot, and then the human is more on the controlling and managing aspect. And besides this automation stuff is also we can leveraging this things in the future for better collaboration around the world. What I mean with is by using augmented reality, virtual reality, digital twins, and so on. We can we're starting to see that there's possibilities that an engineer which is working in Munich in a laboratory can collaborate with a colleague from Singapore working on one circuit. And the circuit could be in real world, as a real hardware circuit, or it could be in a virtual environment, so that everything of the circuit is simulated. And with these more simulated and also with these better possibilities to collaborate via IoT Edge Computing Cloud, there's a possibility to reduce errors in designs of circuits. And this is a very important point because it's very expensive when tape out of a chip has errors, problems in it, and also a big waste of precious materials. And so this is an important thing, and naturally these developments are then connected to the industrial metaverse Web 3.0. And then perhaps one last thing, which is not directly connected necessarily to Infineon, but something which is out there is then the question of the expansion into space. Naturally, when we want to think about in the future to move factories into space, to move data centers into the space, this is not possible without IoT edge computing or cloud computing, because it's not these components which then fly around in these factories which are then fly around the Earth are not always have the best connection, so they need to be able to work on their own.
Thanks, Kai. And so also with your comment, basically to wrap up a little bit, we're approaching the end of the webinar, and we have just one quick last round of question. In the previous rounds, many times we have talked about single market, open source, open standards, cooperation ecosystem. And so I would like to close this panel by asking what opportunities do you see in the immediate future for cooperation between both industry and research? I would like to ask this to Rainer, who was mentioning this before, and then ask the same to Albert and Brendan to close the discussion. So Rainer.
Thanks, Maria. I mean, we figured out over the last couple of years that this funding containers, and believe me, the industry is not doing funding containers for the sake of funding. They're doing this because they're sitting together with the right people and changing the business. They have the opportunity to design and test new business cases and build underlying infrastructure in a time frame of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So kind of for us, it's a long-term project. Actually, usually the projects we're running have much smaller iterations. This is something where we can contribute with all the experience that we have in scaling out infrastructure, in building it in a very secure way to put it to technical readiness level mind at the end of the day, because that's what we want to operate, but really start early in the process and get the right consortia together. So building this consortia is key for us. We do know the big players in the market, and we do know what they're doing. So that's something we can approach directly. But I think the magic is that there are so many very innovative mid-sized companies, smaller companies, startup companies, and to find them is quite hard for us because it would take really some time. But these funding projects generate some gravity for these companies, and particularly if they're in certain sectors that really help us to get in touch with them. So this is a super cool container, not for the years, but for building the teams that can then change the industry. I mean, this is what it's all about, and that's why we're driving this collaboration, especially with the research and other industries here.
Thanks also for being very, very effective. Albert, what's your take? Sorry, you are muted, Albert.
Sorry, Maria. The importance here, what all the use cases are, is that we create, first of all, as we call it, an open continuum from our side, but a real ecosystem that spans from delivery and demand, but also embeds parties from an ecosystem that do not necessarily qualify, certainly not as a delivery, but maybe not even as a demand side. But government bodies that need to embrace the new technology if they want to support implementation of new technologies in, like it was mentioned in the beginning, smart cities or smart whatever you want to call that. So OASC, Eurocities, standardization bodies that need to bring in, because one aspect of a use case, just one simple one, if you talk about care and remote patient support, you need to find a technology that works not only in the houses or in homes of the patients, but needs to work everywhere, because we will travel. And if with whatever technology is on my body to monitor my condition, I should be able to travel through Europe or maybe even outside Europe. So standardization and testing of all this in a continuum is very important. And that means edge. So my IoT device, Natalie, that's on my body, and the edge layer, Rainer, in the middle, you need to make sure there is a real continuum of that. So I would leave it to that. And my call for the industry or for all parties potentially involved is, when you're in doubt, but it's interesting for you, just come see and contribute, because we need you all. I would leave it to that, Natalie, Maria, sorry.
Thanks, Albert. Brendan.
I don't know what else to add really, but I'll try. I think kind of what we've heard is that, we know what the promise of the CEI is. All of us here are able to, explain that it's going to help us in terms of being more energy efficient, perform more complex scenarios, and, increase security and privacy. And I think as well, what we're going to see in the future is organizations who are going to become more, not necessarily elegant in their data, but they're going to become better at using data. And we're already seeing that, how they're structuring inside large organizations. The concept of the data mesh is much more efficient, much more effective, much more horizontal. Well, it's the opposite of horizontal, but anyway. But it's spreading data use and complex use of data across different departments of the organization. And this is going to bring up a huge amount of opportunities. So the promise of the cloud, of the CEI, and the improved capacity of using that data and manipulating it and bringing it together is kind of where CEI sits. And we have a huge push coming. I think everyone here has mentioned it. We have basically 5G is going to be a public good. Especially here in Spain. It's being paid for by the Spanish government, so it's a public good. And the real use of 5G is that enabler of everything that we're talking about today. We have smarter devices coming onto the market, greater proliferation of those accelerators and those chips that are going to really enable all these different areas. And we also have that policy push. I'm not going to say stick, but we have the Data Act coming along that will help move along different things. And so for anyone who's working in an industry, it really needs to be taking part now in the use cases around the CEI, because it's now that the that they're being shaped, that the context is being brought through, and just as Albert mentioned, we need people to be part of shaping those use cases, and essentially so that those organizations are able to catch the ball, because the ball is going to be thrown at them, and either you catch it and you run with it, or you drop it. And I think that's something that is really important, that they're in at this early stage, they're taking part, they're contributing to use cases, they are getting the visibility on what's going down the line, and they're able to position their organization and their internal strategies, and that convergence and that eternal fight between IT and OT to be able to actually align so that they can take a closer to that. And I think that's where the value chain adopter groups come in as well. It's a great opportunity to really be part of that conversation and be part of this broad portfolio of activities that will hopefully and will show basically change everything about how we use technology in 6 years' time.
Great. Thanks, Brendan. Thank you all to all the panelists for providing such amazing insights. I see no questions in the chat, but if you people who are listening will want to add something, you can do it now, or you can also write us an email at this address that I'm pasting here. So maybe you think about it later and you want to get involved, and you can reach us. So thanks again, everyone, and I will leave the floor to Golbu for the concluding remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much to all panelists. It was really interesting, very interesting insights, very interesting points of view. I would like only to encourage everyone, every type of stakeholder, so from company, from research, from associations, to be in touch with us, to contact us, to get in touch, and to join us in the activities that we are going to do in terms of the value chain adopters group. You can follow us on our social networks. You can send us email. As mentioned also by others, for us, what is very important as a CSA is to engage all the parts of the value chain, so all types of stakeholders. We are going to focus on the demand perspective, so especially on the end users, but it doesn't mean that we exclude technology providers and other stakeholders. Indeed, we also focus to get in touch with them, to make also events with them, and in order to create this dialogue between the supply and demand side. So please get in touch with us. We are waiting for you to be part of the activities that we are doing, and we are here also to technology providers and supply projects to also support you and to provide you insights in order to accelerate the uptake of the solutions that you are developing within your projects. So that's all from my side. Maria, for you, the final word.
Okay, so thanks all. I want to just wish a nice afternoon to everyone, and thank you for staying all this time with us. The slides will be available to all who registered, and also the video will be on demand. So if you missed something, or colleagues would be interested and couldn't be here, just give the registration link, and at the same link they will be able to see the video on demand, and we'll publish it also on YouTube. So there will be opportunity to rewatch this again and be in touch. Thanks again, and have a nice afternoon and end of the day.
Thanks, Maria.
See you next time. Thanks to everyone who contributed.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.